Rational therapy, or rational emotive therapy, also called RT for short, is based on several fundamental propositions or hypotheses. And the first of these is that the past is not crucial in a person's life. The past affects him a good deal, but he affects himself much more than the past affects him. Because no matter what he has learned during his historical development, the only reason why these things that have happened to him and that have been told to him affect him today is because he is still re-indoctrinating himself with the same philosophies of life, the same values that he usually imbibed and taught himself to early in his childhood. So we stick largely in the present in rational emotive psychotherapy rather than in the past. And we believe that today the individual experiences negative emotions, self-defeating behavior, inefficiencies, because he now is indoctrinating himself with what we call simple exclamatory sentences, which involve ideas. Human beings can tell themselves ideas in all kinds of languages, in pictures, in sign languages, in nonverbal expression, in math, for example, but they normally speak to themselves in simple English if English is their native tongue. And when they talk to themselves in an irrational or an illogical way, then they literally create their negative feelings or emotions and the behavior that follows therefrom. Now, just to give an example, the individual usually tells himself when he's upset, first a sane sentence and then an insane sentence. The sane sentence is something along the order of, I don't like the thing that I've done. I dislike my own behavior. And that would be fine, but unfortunately he follows it with an insane sentence, which says to himself, and because I don't like my behavior, I am a louse, I am worthless, I am a no-goodnik. And this thoroughly insane sentence, which is a sentence of faith unfounded on fact, which has no empirical reference, which is a kind of superstitious or dogmatically religious system, creates what we call his anxiety, and through his anxiety, his depression, his guilt, his other forms of self-defeatism. Or again, the individual tells himself the same sentence, I don't like your behavior, when, let us say, somebody has acted badly with him, and instead of following that up with that because I don't like your behavior, I can still stand it, and I'm going to try to get you to change your behavior, he says, I can't stand your behavior. Or in an absolutistic, godlike, grandiose manner, you shouldn't be the way you are because I think that I don't like the way you are. Now, it's these second B sentences which upset the individual. Or another way of putting it, as Epictetus, a Roman philosopher, said many years ago, it's not what happens to us at point A that upsets us, it's B, our view of what happens to us. And in rational emotive psychotherapy, we go after this individual, the patient's view, and show him that whatever he thinks has upset him, usually some external situation, what somebody else has done, it's really what he's telling himself about this thing, this event, which upsets him. And although he may never be able to do anything about the external event at A, he can change the internal event, his sentence, his belief to himself at B. Now, in rational emotive psychotherapy, we try to show the patient three kinds of insight in contradistinction to some other therapies, which usually emphasize one major kind. The first kind we try to show him is that all his behavior, especially his negative self-defeating behavior, which we're interested in, which is upsetting him, has clear-cut ideological antecedents. He may have learnt these, as I said before, in the past, but right now, today, he must still believe these same ideologies, else he would not get the negative behavior that flows therefrom. And insight number two, which is most important and which is unfortunately neglected in many other systems of psychotherapy, is that he, being, as Ernst Cassirer once said, a symbolizing animal, is continually re-indoctrinating himself with these ideologies. And that's the issue. That's why he's now disturbed. Now, insight number 3 is that even when he sees clearly what he's telling himself and that he's telling himself nonsense, only by work and practice, by continually reassessing and revaluing his own philosophic assumptions, will he ever get better. Now, we also stress the fact that action is necessary to change an individual. Just talking about things, thinking about things is nice, but not necessary. I should say it's not a necessary condition for psychotherapeutic change. What the individual has to do in addition usually is act, and we therefore give him concrete homework assignments and get him to act these out and check up and follow to see whether he does these homework assignments. And our final goal is to get the individual to learn, and learn for the rest of his life, to challenge and question his own basic value systems, his own thinking, so that he really thinks for himself. He must do this particularly when he feels miserable, he feels anxiety or depression or guilt or too much frustration or anything else that is negative, or when he behaves very inefficiently. And finally, he was able, through this kind of new thinking, rethinking his own assumptions, to apply what we call the scientific method to the facets of human living, and to be truly scientific in his behavior, to question and challenge his own assumptions as we do in science, and thereby to minimize, though never entirely to eliminate, the terrible anxiety and the atrocious hostility which unfortunately affects most of us in this existence. Hello, Gloria. I'm Dr. Ellis. You want
Dear Dr. Ellis.
to be seated, please?
Mm-hmm.
Well, would you like to tell me what's bothering you most?
Yeah, I think the things that I'd like to talk to you the most about are adjusting to my single life. Mostly men, I guess. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I'm doing the wrong thing, but I'm going to refer to your book anyway, because this is what I'm impressed with, the book about the Intelligent Woman's Guide to Manhunting.
Yeah.
I tried to follow it, and I believe in it. This is why it's so fun reading your book, because I'm not much of a reader, but I sort of believe the same way you do. But then I've got a problem in this area. The men that I'm attracted to, or the type of man I'd like to become closely involved with, I can't seem to meet, or I get too shy with, or something that it just doesn't click. The men I seem to be dating nowadays are the ones that I don't respect much, the ones I don't enjoy much, that seem blip and uninteresting.
Well,
and I don't know if it's something about me or what, because I really do want to meet this kind of man.
Well, let's talk a little about your shyness. Let's suppose you meet somebody whom you consider eligible, that you might like. Now, let's see if we can get at the source of your shyness, just what you're telling yourself to create this. You meet this man and you feel shy, embarrassed.
Yes, but I don't usually show that. I usually act flip right back.
Yeah.
I act like the other men act to me, as a matter of fact. I act flip. I don't seem near as intelligent. I act like a typical dumb blonde. I'm just not myself with him. I'm more on at ease.
Yes. Well, as you probably know from manhunting, I believe that people only get emotions such as negative emotions of shyness, embarrassment, shame, because they tell themselves something in simple exclamatory sentences. Now let's try to find out what you're telling yourself. You're meeting this individual. Now what do you think you're saying to yourself before you get flipped?
I know what it is, that I don't stand up to his expectations. I'm not quite enough for him. He's superior to me. Although I want this type of man, I'm afraid I won't have enough to attract him.
Well, that's the first part of the sentence, and that might be a true one, because maybe he could be superior to you in some ways. Maybe he wouldn't be attracted to you, but that would never upset you if you were only saying that. I think he may be superior to me. Now, you're adding a second sentence to that, which is, if this is so, that would be awful.
Well, not quite so extreme as that, because I've thought about that, too. It's usually, I've missed my chance again, because when I want to become... If I want to show the very best of myself, because I think I have self-confidence that I have enough to offer.
Yeah.
But when I get afraid like that, then I show all the bad qualities. I'm flip, I'm then I'm so much on the defensive that I can't show my good qualities. And it's like I missed my chance again. There was a good opportunity to be close to this man, and I loused it up again.
All right, but even let's suppose you're saying that, and I think you really are, but you must be saying something else too, because if you were just saying, hell, I missed my chance again, you'd say, all right, next time I'll take advantage of what I learned this time and do it a little better. Now, you still must be saying, if you feel shame, embarrassment, shyness, there's something pretty bad about your error in missing your chance again.
I don't know if this follows in context to what you're saying, but the thing I do feel is that I get suspicious then. Am I the type of woman that will only appeal to the ones that are to not my type of guy anyway? Is there something wrong with me? Am I never going to find the kind of man I enjoy? I always seem to get the other ones.
All right, now you're getting closer to what I'm talking about, because you're really saying, if I am this type of woman that none of these good, eligible males are going to appeal to, then that would be awful. I'd never get what I want, and that would really be something frightful, isn't
Plus,
it?
I don't like thinking of myself that way. I want to put myself on a higher standard. I don't like to think that I may be just an average Jane Doe.
But let's just suppose, for the sake of argument at the moment, that that were so.
All right.
That you were an average Jane Doe. Now, would that be so terrible? It would be inconvenient. It would be unpleasant. You wouldn't want it. But would you get an emotion like shyness, embarrassment, shame out of just believing that maybe I'm going to end up like Jane Doe?
I don't know.
Well, I don't think you could, because you still would have to be saying on some level, as I think you've just said, and it would be very bad. It would be terrible. I would be a no-goodnik if I were just
Well, plus,
Jane Doe.
I'd never get what I want. If I were just a Jane Doe, and if I'd have to accept that, I'd never get what I want, and I don't want to live the rest of my life with just icky men.
Well, it's
I want
not necessarily so that you'd never. You really mean your chances would be reduced, because we know some icky girls who get some splendid men, don't we?
That's
Yeah.
right.
You see, so you're generalizing there. You're saying it probably would be that I'd have a more difficult time, but then you're jumping to, therefore, I'd never get it all. You see
Well-
the catastrophizing there that you jumped to.
Yes, but it feels that way to me at the time. It seems like forever.
That's right, but isn't that a vote of non-confidence in you? An essential vote of non-confidence?
Yes.
And the non-confidence is because you're saying, one, I don't want to miss out on things. I would like to get the kind of a man I want and be a, in your words, superior kind of girl who gets a superior kind of man.
Yes.
But if I don't, then I'm practically on the other side of the chain completely, a no-goodnik, somebody who'll never get anything that I want, which is quite an extreme away, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's what I call catastrophizing, taking a true statement, and there is a good deal of truth in what you're saying, if you didn't get the kind of a man you wanted, that it would be inconvenient, annoying, frustrating, which it really would be, and then saying, I'd never possibly get what I want, and even beyond that, you're really saying, and then I couldn't be a happy human being. Aren't you really saying that on some level? But let's just look at that. Let's just assume the worst, as Bertrand Russell once said years ago. Assume the worst, that you never got at all, for whatever the reasons may be, the kind of a man you want. Look at all the other things you could do in life to be happy.
Well, I don't like the whole process. I don't even like as I'm going through it. I don't... All right, even if it wasn't a catastrophe, even if I didn't look at it as a catastrophe, I don't like the way I'm living right now. For example, when I meet somebody that I'm interested in that could have some potential, right away I find I'm not near as relaxed with him. I worry more, should I be friendly? Should I kiss him goodnight? Should I do this? If it's just a Joe Doe and I don't give a darn, I can be anything I want to be. I turn out to be more of a person when I'm not as concerned. I don't like the way I'm,
But you're not merely concerned, you're over-concerned. You're anxious, because if you were just concerned, you'd do your best and you'd be saying to yourself, if I succeed, great. If I don't succeed, tough. Right now, I won't get what I want. But you're over-concerned or anxious. You're really saying, again, that's what we said a moment ago, if I don't get what I want right now, I'll never get it. And that would be so awful that I've got to get it right now. That causes the anxiety, doesn't it?
Yes, or else work toward it.